Alrighty, let us begin.
This video is sponsored by Raycon. Having grown up in Ireland in the late 1990s and early 2000s, shows like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Sailor Moon, and of course Dragon Ball were widely available and accessible. And since then, I've made it my mission to catch up on all the most iconic stories I missed growing up. One Piece, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Hunter x Hunter, and Attack on Titan. All brilliant stories in their own rights, but before I ever heard of
No, they're not. Never mind, I'll
long
stick to
before
my
I
AirPods
ever
then.
turned on that first episode of Attack on Titan, I heard whispers of a certain show. A story that was making noise across the pond in the US, one that cast a shadow so large it managed to stretch all the way from Japan to my home. Where I grew up, we never got Naruto. So, let's see if I missed anything good.
Oh shit! Let's go, dude!
I gotta say, right off the bat, picking that first volume up off the shelf felt
The Linkin Park
While I knew
AMV.
very little about the story outside of the main character's name, Naruto, and that it's for the most part about ninjas, I was without question acutely aware of one inalienable fact: that this was a beloved franchise, a story people massively identified.
Okay, so here's some predictions I have going in. He's either gonna nail this shit, or it's gonna be like a Plague of Gripes level critique. So let's see.
With, and that it too has its detractors. Sounded very much like Dragon Ball to me, so while picking that first volume from my shelf, I was filled with a giddy enthusiasm I hadn't felt in years. Finally, after all this time, I was reading Naruto. And I liked these opening chapters, but I didn't love them. In fact, I found them to be a little unfocused, if that makes sense at all. But don't worry, this video has a happy ending, so sit tight. For me, first impressions are important because you only get one chance to make them. In that same vein, the first paragraph of your novel or the first chapter of your manga, in this case,
is he calling the first chapter bad?
Different tricks, not only to hold your attention, but to also introduce you to the main character and the wider world the story is set in. And of course, there are different ways to go about performing this narrative somersault.
Oh, here we go.
Took an approach adequately representative of what would later be recognized as Oda's style. A comprehensive and intensely powerful character-driven story built on the back of Luffy's ambition. Hajime Isayama's Attack on Titan 2, I think, had a near-perfect first impression on the audience it was trying to reach. Establishing...
Dude, this is already pissing me off. Why is he... Okay,
its nail-biting premise, the motivations of the main characters, and giving us a taste of the wider world's politically driven infrastructure.
No, dude,
I knew I was in for an action-packed political drama, the likes of which I would never forget.
There's no way he thinks the first chapter of Naruto. Dude.
First impressions are important. They're what dictate whether or not many people will give a story their attention in the future. Particularly when it comes to manga. They're released one chapter at a time, after all. It's not like a movie or a book where the rest is right there for you to digest, and because of this fact, many manga begin their stories with a much longer than average first chapter to establish what they want. And given that Naruto is still one of the most successful mangas to ever be released, I was surprised by its introduction. The pacing felt fast, almost too fast. I will say, though, that it did a decent job at establishing the heartbeat of Naruto's journey, with him effectively being the outcast of his community. Armed only with a burning desire to become the next Hokage, I enjoyed that aspect of it. Seeing Naruto struggle with his lessons felt appropriate, hearing about his dream felt intimate, and the success he
I love that top left panel, by the way.
finds at the end felt adequately cathartic for a first chapter. Helped enormously by Kishimoto's fantastic artistic abilities. I mean, that two-page spread of the one-time...
You know what's funny about Kishimoto is people used to say he was the weakest artist of the big three.
Screw up Naruto performing a fantastic clone technique was given pride of place, and rightfully so. I can still picture that.
Which is actually, it might be true. But
my job is to make college
by
easy.
the way, we signed out of my main account, so we actually have to watch ads.
Because students have a lot.
Because I don't have premium.
There's plenty I've taken away from this first chapter that I liked, and it was certainly enough to encourage more reading from me, which, I mean, is sort of the only job it has, right? However, along with these impressive aspects to the opening of the story, so too did it come with some, I don't want to say negatives, but it did leave me scratching my head a little. The character of Iruka is given a lot of focus in this first chapter. I can see what Kishimoto might have been going for here, with him acting as a useful individual, close enough to share intimate moments with Naruto, but far enough away to vent candid frustrations for us as an audience to understand. Within this first chapter, he existed as a vehicle to deliver information to us about Naruto, and yet, when I finished it, I didn't feel particularly close to Naruto, but instead, Iruka himself, due to the amount of time we spent with him.
Dog, what? What the fuck? What the fuck is he talking about, dude? You didn't feel attached to Naruto in the first chapter, but you felt attached to Iruka? This really is some Plague of Gripes fucking commentary, dude. Oh my god. So, he's saying... First he says Iruka is like an exposition bot that we see all the time. I hate... Look. I hate dropping this term. I hate dropping this term. But if you really don't get Naruto and why... and don't understand Naruto probably more than Iruka in that first chapter, it's just fucking middle class. Like, that's all it says to me, bro. Like, I hate to say it, but come on, man. You literally saw how the motherfucker was raised, treated his whole life. You saw him cry. You saw what he hoped and believed in. You saw what he wanted. You saw who he was. You saw everything about Naruto. Compared to Iruka, you learn way more about Naruto. We barely know jack fuck all about Iruka, except that his parents died like Naruto. He's a chunin and a teacher. Compared to that, we know like everything about Naruto already in this first chapter. It's literally, it's not comparable at all. What do you know, dude? This is... Okay, so I think we're going down the Plague of Gripes level critique, which good for me. But, it sucks for people that wanted a perfect Naruto review. But, that was really bad. That's a really bad take.
Which might not be a bad thing, but certainly wasn't what I was expecting, nor was it, I think, what Kishimoto was aiming for. Furthermore,
you're right. I think you might have skipped a page or two, dude.
Or there's an
I don't know if you read it.
Exposition revealed in the first chapter alone. I would argue far more than is even necessary to make that hook at the end of the first chapter.
Dude, Naruto literally, oh my god. The way Naruto has to go through like a little mini character arc if he's gonna end up like Mizuki or Iruka. Oh, dude, it was so fucking good, man. Mizuki's like, no, he's like me, and Iruka's like, no, you're wrong, you know, he's still a good guy, he's like the leaf, like me, and that whole, like, turmoil just in one, dude, the crazy-ass little mini arc that happens in this one fucking chapter for Naruto is just so good, dude. He was calling it fast-paced for a reason, because this motherfucker Naruto goes through pretty much a whole arc in one chapter. It's such a good chapter,
Thankfully,
man.
however, as the first few chapters drift on by, I started to feel the story catch its stride through the introduction of two crucial characters.
Here we go. Here we go.
I immediately liked Sasuke. Not only did I find him well conceived and conveyed through these introductory chapters, but I also found him to be exactly what this story needed. A rival character.
Kishimoto's editor would agree with you.
While having his own goal.
I remember Kishimoto's editor pretty much fucking said the same exact thing and basically invented Sasuke.
That often conflict with the main character exists primarily
marks on the editor wave.
Significant differences between himself and the main character, in this case Naruto. By being a prodigy, top of his class, and sought after by Sakura, Sasuke represents everything that Naruto isn't and what he yearns to be, and in being such also facilitates terrific contrasts that highlight Naruto's greatest attributes: his unflinching desire to never give up and his roaring passion to achieve his goal, to become the greatest Hokage that ever lived. While a character like Sasuke is nowadays, for lack of a better term, cliche, I am a firm believer that oftentimes creative choices become cliches for a reason, because they work. He comes across as dark, serious, and single-minded in his one existing goal, to kill a specific individual that wronged his family in the past.
Yeah, but back then it was a little bit more unique. So it's more like nowadays it's a little bit more used than it was. But even then, a lot of Naruto is inspired by other older stories and stuff. Even like the whole Sharingan and Uchiha clan is inspired by like ancient Red-Eyed clan stories and shit like that. You know, all of the Sannin are based on stories. A lot of characters are based on stories, so there are some cliches, but I don't think this was that cliche at the time, so I don't think he's harping on it, but that's just my own opinion. So.
Which is great, as it not only gives him a want or desire different from the others, but it's also perfectly emblematic of his no-nonsense personality and embellishes his already strong contrast with Naruto's much more light-hearted persona, helping us to better appreciate Naruto's strengths while highlighting his weaknesses, the latter of which developing into an aspect of the story that drives so much of who Naruto is as a character. In essence, I see Sasuke as the perfect foil for Naruto in this story, all of which can be observed after our introduction to another character in Sakura. This one was interesting, and while yes, in a fun way, not always so. Going into this, given the time this story was released, I was relieved to see that Sakura wasn't being used for fan service. If you like that sort of thing, more power to you, but it's never been for me. In the same way I don't like mindless action, I similarly don't care much for
Broly Raw
or mindless over-sexualized characters.
Wait, is that actually happened? Hold on.
Being used for fan service. If
Hold
you
on.
like that sort of thing, more power to you,
Hold on,
but
this-
it's never been
did
for
this
me.
actually
In the
happen?
same way
Holy fuck, dude. My boy Broly going in. Let's go,
I don't
dude.
like mindless action. I similarly
Get their
don't
ass,
care
Broly.
much for mindless over-sexualized characters, male or female. My favorite aspect of her character is how effective she can be as a comic relief. Oftentimes, she's shown with massively over-exaggerated expressions of anger and joy, which I thought added some variety to the mix. Furthermore, from a narrative mechanical front, if we lift the hood on this metaphorical narrative car, we can see that she's clearly and currently depicted as less of a character and more of a mechanism to bolster Naruto and Sasuke's respective roles and encounters, which from a utilitarian perspective is not only fine, but exactly what Kishimoto was looking
Utilitarian.
for. She is a supporting character to Naruto and Sasuke, and without her, these two would have very little reason to interact with each other at all, thus making her instrumental not only in making Sasuke effective in his role, but also by extension responsible for making the main character Naruto shine. She is, for all intents and purposes, the catalyst that makes all the magic happen between them in the beginning. Take, for example, Naruto and Sasuke's first ever interaction in the manga. Very early on, there's an unrequited love triangle established between Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke. Naruto is interested in
art
Sakura,
is good.
Sakura hates Naruto, but loves Sasuke, and Sasuke loves vengeance. But my point is that without Sakura acting as a connective tissue, so to speak, between Naruto and Sasuke, Naruto would never have grown a jealousy for the attention Sasuke is receiving from Sakura, and therefore, this would never have happened. And what a shame that would
Goated
be. I don't
moment.
want to live in a world where this
Should've
scene
been
doesn't
gay.
exist. This was the first moment in the manga that made me burst out laughing, and to be honest, mangas don't do that often for me. So she's a great tool
Naruto.
for comedic hijinks too, which
Yeah,
I
the way he says it.
appreciate, but to be clear, her primary directive, at least in these early chapters,
So it looks like so far it's just his take on the first chapter is just complete utter ass, and then the rest of it's okay. So I don't know.
is to facilitate this
Did you know Kishimoto's editors thought Sakura was like an ugly bitch, and they don't know why he drew her that way? I shit you not. They actually said, "Why the fuck is Sakura like not even cute? Isn't she supposed to be like the crush character?" It was
narrative
funny.
sleight of hand time and again throughout
He's like,
the
"I like her."
It works in both directions. However, this doesn't excuse one glaring flaw I've noticed, and it's probably one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to character writing. She exists to serve other characters and little else. Her existing
Yes.
goals are
Spit
selfish,
King.
certainly, but the fact that I would have zero idea
Say it
what
louder,
kind of person
King.
she'd be like if I were to remove Naruto and Sasuke
Pack
from the
this
equation
bitch.
really serves to highlight my point at this stage of the story.
Pack this
There's a
bitch.
scene where these three kids get to introduce themselves to each other, a terrific mechanism for us as an audience to get to know them better. Naruto's intro is quirky and fun with a fiery ambition clearly present. Sasuke's is appropriately dark and serious. But
I talked about this on my
Sakura's
last
is
stream,
literally
actually.
her saying that she loves Sasuke and hates Naruto.
I said this yesterday.
Funnily enough, she's about to start talking about her other hobbies when Kishimoto decides that that's a good time to cut to Kakashi, making note that she seems to care more about love than ninjutsu. Which brings me to my main
Granted, I will say this. When you look at Kishimoto's panel here, it does seem like Kishimoto was establishing, okay, so this is now Sakura, because, like, it's okay to start the series off as, like, a flawed, dumbass character. So, because Sakura's so obsessed with Sasuke, you know, it kind of leaves room for her to, like, develop as a character. But as we see in the story, she doesn't develop that beyond this point. So, but she does develop, but I do feel like that was Kishimoto's original idea with that. I just don't think he performed it that well. He probably got a little bit overwhelmed. He had to do the tuning exams, which is like the most overloaded, crazy fucking arc, and then he had to balance all these characters he made in the tuning exams all throughout the story. So Sakura probably got the short end of the stick, but that's what I imagine from Kishimoto's perspective at first.
Contention with her as a character. Her very presence sort of devalues the entire social
female. Well, Tsunade and Kaguya don't have those traits. I mean, but
structure and reputation of.
But is there any character in Naruto that isn't just like a dick-hungry fucking heathen? Is there any? Even Tsunade's like Conan. Conan, right? No, Tamari's like Shikamaru's like wife or whatever. Is there any female who doesn't just like... Dude, Sarada is a dick-hungry heathen. What do you mean? Dude, Kishi, like... No, sorry. Is it code? It's Udachi. Udachi went out of his way sexualizing that bitch. Had her in the bathtub fantasizing about Boruto. Is there any female? Keen because she's dead. That's true. Tenten? No, dude. Even Tenten was like thirsting over like fucking Neji or Rock Lee or something. I forgot what if it was in the anime or the manga, but she was thirsty. Yeah, Anko. Anko, yeah. Anko's good. Anko's my favorite female Naruto character. Let's go.
Of the school, Naruto struggled to gain acceptance too.
New
At this
favorite.
Point in the story, she barely says anything other than wondering where Sasuke is or how annoying Naruto can be. Naruto does have a large interest in her, an interest that at points in this arc drives him to make certain decisions, but he's still able to have other interests and driving forces in his life outside of that. His main motivation is to become
pretty
the
good
next
too.
Hokage, and that's awesome. Absolutely something I can get behind. But if all he wanted to do was to chase Sakura, that would be much less interesting. In short, I respect what she offers the story in terms of quality, but as a character, I not only find her quite vapid, but I also found that at times her inclusion tends to devalue what it is they are trying to achieve. But perhaps it's still early days and I haven't given her a chance to fully express who she is as a character and what she really wants. To be fair, she is standing alongside two very well realized characters.
Yep.
And speaking of contrasts, when I picked up Volume 2, the cover brought to my attention something rather interesting from an artistic point of view. Front and center on the cover we see Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto. A fairly standard cover considering the contents of this volume.
Those are some big ass
specifically.
kunai.
However, in my Hunter x Hunter review, I eventually pointed out what made Gon and Killua were thoughtfully designed characters from an artistic point of view. They acted as a great inversion of colors in the manga when compared to each other. But Kishimoto
look how
takes
big
that
those
to the
kunai
next
are.
level with these three. To complement Naruto's upbeat and fiery personality,
Imagine he
he's
whipped
given
those
him
fucking
bright,
things out on
vibrant
Zabuza.
orange and yellows everywhere.
Zabuza
For
would have to
Sasuke,
dodge
his
that.
dark and more stoic personality lends better to darker tones, but what makes him particularly wonderful is only seen in the full color. I mentioned that Sasuke is a wonderful rival character because he effectively contrasts and complements Naruto's personality, amplifying his effect. Well, if we look at a color wheel, we can quite clearly see what the opposite or color complement to orange is. it's blue. Sasuke dons a wonderfully dark blue
also known as
his
Vegeta.
And highlighting
Early
what he
2000s
represents to the main
Vegeta.
character, Naruto,
Ninja
in
Vegeta.
contrast. But my friends, that's not where this ends. I mentioned before that Sakura is sort of the connective tissue that brings these two into contact. In many ways, she acts as the midpoint between the two of them. Naturally, she's going to be colored red to represent her main driving motivation, love, and the word Sakura directly translated means cherry blossom, so pink is a natural inclusion here too. But one look at the color wheel again and you'll notice that pink and red are exactly halfway between.
Squarespace?
With Squarespace, editing and adding pieces on my
They tried to hire me, by the way.
Between orange and blue. In other words, she is right in the middle between Sasuke and Naruto. I love stuff like this. Well done, Kishimoto. School's back, and that means many.
So, okay. School's back, by the way. My opinion, this is my opinion, not a comment on his video. I do believe that Sakura is supposed to represent more of, supposed to be like, kind of like, because, okay, so Naruto is crazy-ass kid. He has a lot of ambitions. And Sasuke is vengeful, but they're both like lonely, down bad characters that are going through a lot of turmoils. And Sakura, for me, Sakura is supposed to represent just a normal person. So like how a normal person handles and interprets those struggles is something I imagine. Even Kakashi is like a lonely, stricken fuck, and Sakura is literally like the only normal person on the team. So she's like the only sense of normalcy on that team. So it kind of for me, yeah, she's middle class. Yeah, middle class. She kind of grounds the edge a little bit. That's the way I perceive it. Now, whether or not how she developed later is up for debate, but that's just how I interpret it. She's supposed to be normalcy. But
many hours of painful studying for many of you. I may be long past school, but all this narrative analysis requires a lot of reading, and with my hectic schedule, it sure is nice to do things on the go. Here's how my Raycons helped me, and maybe you'll find they'll help you too. When I'm out and walking my dogs or even laying in
look, not to hate on Mark, but he's got bad skin.
bed at night, I'll often have academic books playing in my ears, and my Raycons provide excellent comfort thanks to the gel tips that let you find the perfect match
This motherfucker
for your
needs
ear
some
size. The built-in mic is also
cleaner.
great for letting me take voice notes whenever an idea comes to mind or I hear something.
He's got
I
bad
absolutely
skin.
have to remember. Crystal clear, high-quality stuff. All this in a stunning, improved rubber oil finish that's super smooth to the touch.
I'm not trying to hate on him. I'm just
And
saying he's got bad
feels
skin.
clean.
He needs
and the
some.
fact that it's all at half the
some
price
shit.
of other brands is pretty insane. I've spoken about the battery life many times before, but it really cannot be overstated.
All right, we'll skip break on. What happened to the fucking quality, dude? What happened to my quality? What the is it the video?
That's so unbelievably long.
This looks so... Is it just... Am I tripping? Maybe it's just... Whatever. I'm assuming this is part of the video. This must be like a really old commercial.
Truth be told,
Yeah,
by
it's
the
just an
time
old
I reached
commercial,
Chapter 8,
so.
I was a little tired of the current format. This first third of the arc, while it did have elements I enjoyed, like the schooling with Kakashi and the various challenges he presents them with, I still felt like the narrative of Naruto, and most importantly, what people liked and loved about it, wasn't translating clearly for me. School is usually a surefire way to create instances of hijinks and conflict, but truth be told, there wasn't a lot of focus given to it. The best part was the Bento Box
That's what
challenge. Seeing
Boruto's for.
Sasuke work his magic and show how much better he is than the rest was exactly the reassurance I needed to confidently press onward into the second, third, and fourth volumes. And thank God I did.
Yes.
I believe Chapter 9 and 10 were where I went from being undecided about this story to sincerely enjoying the experience. When reading and reviewing manga became my
HD
job,
had no
I felt
effect on it,
grateful,
that's
of course,
true.
but also concerned as now a hobby, my one-time retreat suddenly became my job. And oftentimes in this line of work, I've found psyching myself up to read a particular volume of manga to be difficult. And with the first few chapters of Naruto passing one after the other, I felt as though I might be facing another wall of manga I simply have to get through. But nothing could be further from the truth with this.
Alright, let's go. Land of Waves. I love these old Part 1 tracks, dude. Heavy violence is so good.
Chapter 9 is a glorious chapter that, while exposition heavy, also carries with it a palpable and natural rising tension. I've often said in the past that pressure, more so than conflict, gives the audience a chance to see who the characters they're following really are. And to this chapter's credit, it delivers just the right amount of
Sasuke literally slob squats on him, dude. How raw is that?
This chapter and the next.
What character slob squatted on another character like that?
Is that I connect with, on some level, what the author is trying to say, and nowhere is this more crucial than with the main character. Having come to know and love the likes of Goku, Luffy, the JoJo's, and numerous other wonderful characters over the span of my life, I was deeply concerned, particularly after the rocky start, that I wouldn't connect with Naruto. But
middle class.
I think I see more of myself in this little character than any of the others. While I love the simplicity and grit of Goku and the kind but tenacious edge to Luffy, there's something about Naruto that defines his character that I find infectious. Doubt. He will work his hands to the bone, walk the soles off his shoes, and work until he collapses to make up for what he perceives to be defects or flaws in his own approach. He recognizes that he's not the most intelligent or the most talented, and we're shown as much thanks to the character of Sasuke. And so, being faced with that reality, he only knows how to put his shoulder down and push himself. He has aspirations and he wants to prove to himself that he's more than what everyone thought he was. And in Chapter 9, I learned this about him. Having been almost killed, freezing at the first sign of real danger, he's forced to contend with the fact that Sasuke was ready and he wasn't. And that maybe, just maybe, those naysayers from his village were right. And seeing that frustration bubble beneath the surface of his expression was amazing to sit and read through, particularly because it readied us for what was to come. One final thing I really enjoyed concerning Naruto as a character in these chapters was how Kishimoto decided to splice in the exposition to
this was in chapter 1.
Feel about Naruto as a character. After stabbing his own hand in frustration and determination not to become a burden to slow people down.
Karthu, I just think he just didn't. I think he skimmed chapter 1. Karthu, I think he just skimmed chapter 1. I think that's the problem, because like everything else seems okay, but it's just chapter 1. It's just like, I think he skimmed it, bro, or something. He was just trying to... There's no way he read chapter 1 that well.
Notices how fast he's healing. From the beginning, the nine-tailed fox spirit trapped inside Naruto has been a source of all his longing and suffering. He's been made practically a pariah since that fateful day by everyone in his community, and now Kishimoto wants us to believe that the only thing that makes Naruto special is his nine-tailed fox spirit. If he does anything bad, then that's to be expected. He has the fox spirit after all. And if he does anything good now, then it too can be chalked down.
Hold on, what is he saying? Am I mishearing this?
Because it readied us for what was to come. One final thing
I
really enjoyed concerning Naruto as a character in these chapters was how Kishimoto decided to splice in the exposition to influence how we might feel about Naruto as a character. After stabbing his own hand in frustration and determination not to become a burden to slow people down, Kakashi notices how fast he's healing. From the beginning, the nine-tailed fox spirit trapped inside Naruto has been a source of all his longing and suffering. He's been made practically a pariah since that fateful day by everyone in his community, and now Kishimoto wants us to believe that the only thing that makes Naruto special is his nine-tailed fox spirit. If he does anything bad, then that's to be expected. He has the fox spirit after all. And if he does anything good now, then it too can be chalked down to that very spirit he's infused with. But in this chapter, when faced by the mounting pressures around him, instead of freezing like he did last time...
Am I not hearing this right? Did I not hear that right? Am I tripping? It sounded like, to me, it sounded like he's, did I misinterpret that? Someone break down what he was trying to say for me. Someone break down what he was trying to say for me. I think he's saying all that he does because of Kurama. Yeah, because it sounded like... It sounded like for a minute he was saying Naruto was only supposed to be special because of Kurama, and that was Kishimoto's intent or something. I don't know. That was a plague take. He's saying how Naruto is breaking free from the Nine Tails. If he does something good, it's the fox. Something bad, it's the fox. That's what the villagers thinks. Oh, okay. So he's saying that that's the perspective of the villagers? We're going to do it one more time. Just to make sure, I'm sorry for repeating it, but I really am I fucking it's weirdly worded. Let's do one more time.
It readied us for what was to come. One final thing I really enjoyed concerning Naruto as a character in
okay, so he's saying enjoyed
these chapters was how Kishimoto decided to splice in the exposition to influence how we might feel about Naruto.
How we might feel about Naruto? Okay, so I'm assuming we're supposed to be these guys?
As a character. After stabbing his own hand in frustration and determination not to become a burden to slow people down, Kakashi notices how fast he's healing. From the beginning, the nine-tailed fox spirit trapped inside Naruto has been a source of all his longing and suffering. He's been made practically a pariah since that fateful day by everyone in his community, and now Kishimoto wants us to believe that the only thing that makes Naruto special is his nine-tailed fox spirit. If he does anything bad, then that's to be expected. He has the fox spirit after all, and if he does anything good now, then it too can be chalked down to that very spirit he's infused with. But in this chapter, when faced by the mounting pressures around him, instead of freezing like he did last time, he looks to his hand as a reminder, plants his feet, and stands up to someone that just took out his teacher. An impressive, elite-level ninja. I don't know what the prevailing narrative concerning Naruto is online, what people's feelings are towards him, but what impresses me about his character isn't the ability he was able to bring out just in time to save the day, but it's the bravery and determination he showed in the face of a situation we know he was scared to tackle.
Okay, so it's a good take. I think it's a good take. It's just worded very weirdly. It's just his grammar was off. So I think he's saying that we're supposed to think like the villagers, where everything about Naruto is because of his Nine Tails, and then Naruto himself shows his character, which is, you know, his bravery and all that, and that's the good part that makes him unique from that thing that we thought he only was. But I feel like Naruto's qualities, even in Chapter 1, were kind of without that as well. So I don't know. I'm going to take it as a good take. But
wasn't the action
I don't know. That's what I'm assuming.
It was the decision to take that action in
just
the
worded
first place.
poorly.
And all of this was helped enormously by the artwork. It should go without saying at this point that these chapters are filled with wonderful action of numerous varieties, within which I finally felt as though I was starting to understand Kishimoto's rhythm as a layout artist. And that rhythm being, when he's at his best, he catches you off guard. He sets something up only for it to be observed by the elite ninjas, and for them to reverse it on us again and again and again. It's a wonderfully quirky style of paneling that infuses wonderfully with the very concept and theme of the story being told. I've said this before, but I love these types of visually interesting and conceptually simple training exercises.
Yeah, I actually
or
like the
for
tree
characters.
training.
Stuff like snake way,
one of my favorite
moving
parts.
a boulder, climbing a tower, or in this case, climbing a tree. Climbing the tree using chakra is a really fun and visually interesting idea for the premise of a chapter, but what I really liked about it was how as soon as Kakashi mentioned this element, the chakras, as something that
he's not
if one
skipping
can
Zabuza.
master, then
Zabuza
nothing
comes
is beyond
back.
them in terms of jutsu, a panel is dedicated
This is the training
specifically
before
to show us
Zabuza.
Naruto's expression, and it says everything. I can tell that to him, to have that question answered would mean a lot. The exercise in action is a nice bolstering of what I mentioned earlier about Sakura. Where Sasuke exerted too much force and Naruto too little, Sakura hit the sweet spot right in the middle and climbed the tree without the use of her arms. In addition to this being a nice visual and narrative reminder of what she represents to the two characters in question, it's honestly nice to see her exceed in her own unique way ahead of the other two for a change. That is until one page later where Kakashi says that the pools of untapped chakra concealed within
Dude, I gotta agree with Mark on this, dude. Kishimoto just loved shitting on Sakura, dude, all the time. It was so unnecessary, bro.
Naruto and Sasuke make Sakura's look like nothing.
That's disappointing.
Concerning Sakura, there is one scene I really enjoyed her.
Once again, I think Sakura is supposed to represent normalcy. She's supposed to be kind of the normal, you know, high-achieving school student, whereas Naruto and Sasuke are the fucking weirdos. So I do think, once again, that's part of the point, but still,
participation
it is funny.
However, with Sakura having already completed the challenge, climbing their respective trees became a head-to-head challenge with Sasuke miles ahead of Naruto. Through this, obviously, it's wonderful to see him slowly catch up. Again, not necessarily because he's more talented or a prodigy like Sasuke is, but because he...
By the way, I know Mark's... I'm not critiquing the video, but Naruto is a fucking prodigy, bro. That motherfucker is an insane prodigy. He is god tier, dude. He is a god tier prodigy. He is ridiculously fucking... I think in the data books it's like, yeah, he has a 5 out of 5 in talent or some shit, or potential. Like, he is an insane prodigy for sure. But I get what he's saying. I'm not critiquing the video, but yeah, like, for those that are just watching my opinion, he is an insane prodigy for sure.
He was willing to ask for help and take the advice of someone like Sakura that was successful before him. Something Sasuke never thought to do. It's a small moment, but it once again made use of the two supporting characters in a clever way to amplify the desired effect of the main character, Naruto. In the beginning of this video, I was lukewarm on this story. I felt as though it was a little unfocused or unconventional, which made it difficult.
Mark, if you see this, can you just reread the first chapter? For all of us, just reread there's no way you read it fully. Like, you had to have skimmed it. Please just reread the first chapter, bro. Please just reread it.
And fully enjoy for me. However, slowly, chapter by chapter, scene by scene,
just reread chapter 1. Everything else is fine. Just reread chapter 1, please.
For this world and its characters. Unlike stories I've covered before, Naruto was different for one reason. Right from the get-go with Hunter x Hunter, it was clear to me it was a dark, dramatic, character-driven story first and foremost. The same can be said for One Piece with its strong focus on world building. Perhaps more so than any other story I've read, Luffy's adventure hinges on its world feeling alive as well as its numerous colorful characters. Attack on Titan, on the other hand, was driven by its premise early on, and Dragon Ball by its comedy and action. But when it came to Naruto, I was left undecided for quite some time. I couldn't figure out what it was that made it so special to so many people. It had some terrific action, endearing comedy, an interesting world, and as I've outlined already, some nicely realized characters in the likes of Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, and even Sakura to some extent. However, at no point did I feel like it was balanced to favor any one area of those over the other. That was until I reached the final encounter of this arc.
Alright, we got an ad. That's a good ad placement, by the way. I need to start doing that in my videos.
Say yes to Loctite.
Dude, in my videos, I just put my ads wherever the fuck. He put his ad clean.
When it came to the closing moments of this arc, within the final chaotic battle pitting the likes of Sasuke and Haku against each other, and Kakashi and Zabuza too, it felt as
there is no analysis of Zabuza and Haku's story in this video.
though I finally began to understand what it was that Naruto was especially focused on. And I have to say, it feels rather unique to Naruto.
Yeah, so this is one thing I'm noticing about Mark's analysis so far. He's not really focusing on arc themes too much. He's mainly focusing on, like, character dynamics and how they act. So this ending Zabuza scene really is, like, thematic. It really is a big vocal point for Naruto, the theme of it, which is the ninja tools, and all of that, which the arc kind of builds up to. So I hope he gets into the themes. The themes are also prevalent in the tuning exams, so we'll have to see, but this is where you'd have to get into that, so let's see if he does.
Something I've mentioned a number of times in this video has been that of who I think Naruto is, and one of the many reasons why this scene depicting Naruto, lost in anger, strikes a chord with me is that it once again draws a distinction between who people think he is and who he actually is. It feels ominous, dark. Couple that with Kakashi making mention that he can't feel Naruto's energy, and you have for yourself something that more closely resembles a possession than a convenient chosen one type power-up moment. Erupting forth from Naruto not because he summoned it, but because he specifically didn't. Losing control of who he is for a split second, allowing that demonic
We then later learn in Shippuden that he doesn't get possessed unless he has 3 tails. So this is actually Naruto just being mad as fuck that his friend died. big brain here.
Spirit coiled within him to spring forth with savage and reckless intent.
This is all Naruto, dude. This has nothing to do with the Nine Tails. Yeah, the Nine Tails is powering him, but this is all Naruto, bro.
And what stops him in his tracks?
人は大切な何かを守りたいと思った時に本当に強くなれるものなんです。
He talks about Zabuza and Haku in the next video? Okay.
The second that power vanishes is the moment Naruto regains his sense of self. Strangely, what I thought this scene shared some commonalities with was Avatar: The Last Airbender. Within the first few episodes, Aang's confronted with the horror that took place in his absence once he arrives back at his air temple. Faced with this shock and disarray, he loses himself to the Avatar state, thankfully brought back before he could hurt anyone by the loving embrace of Katara.
Look, I don't know if it's another bad wording thing, but bro, Naruto was not possessed. He was not influenced at all. Like, the only thing that was influenced was his power level, dude. Kurama wasn't controlling his body or influencing his actions or anything. Naruto is legit just fucking pissed that his friend died. Like, so I don't know if it's a weird wording again, but Naruto is legit just fucking angry. Like, any normal person might act that way. You know what I mean?
In Naruto, similar to Avatar, it's being made evident that the fox spirit inside Naruto isn't him necessarily.
Yeah, the way he's, by the way, this way he says Naruto is interesting, because sometimes he says Naruto, and then sometimes he says Naruto. So I don't know.
And instead,
it's inconsistent.
what makes Naruto who he is, similar to Aang, was his ability to control himself before he hurt someone he cared about. And this sentiment of constantly wanting to try to never give up and to control whatever you can makes itself known at numerous wonderful instances during this story. None perhaps more powerful than through Inari's flashbacks. Naruto not only feels an obligation to help people, but particularly those that he sees himself in. Perhaps because he's a good person, but also perhaps these lost toys more so because he empathizes with their situation.
Here's something. Okay, we can finish this before I get into it.
With Haku and Inari acting as two sides of that Naruto coin in a sense. Inari thankfully had someone in Naruto to instill a positive outlook on his situation, leading to his eventual and fantastic save at the end. But on the other hand, we have someone like Haku, a character with an outlook so disastrously unfortunate and tragic that it's almost difficult to accept that he has so much in common with our main character Naruto in the first place, with his untimely and frankly harrowing end coming moments after this.
This track is so pretty.
And through this horribly sad end to a fantastic battle, something inside my head clicked. I mentioned towards the beginning of the story that I found the start somewhat rough around the edges, unfocused and ill-defined. However, now, having completed the first arc and having gotten a taste of what this story really is all about, this story, Naruto, feels perfect as a story penned by Masashi Kishimoto. At the beginning of the very first volume I picked up, Kishimoto wrote a short paragraph thanking us for our support of his dream. Overjoyed, he wrote that this was the happiest moment of his life. Unlike Akira Toriyama, someone he admired and looked up to, Kishimoto's path to success wasn't as straightforward. Nothing seemed to come easy to him. Time and again, he'd face rejection after rejection at every corner, all in a desperate attempt to achieve his dream of one day breaking into the manga industry. It's not difficult to see the parallels he's drawn between his personal experiences and the beginning of Naruto's story. The journey of a young, unwanted orphan child tenaciously and earnestly pursuing his dreams, despite his detractors, and in no more fitting or poetic a fashion, together both Kishimoto and Naruto help each other to achieve their respective dreams. Speaking
this
as
is such a good mix
myself,
of sadness
one of the biggest
and sorrow.
difficulties in my professional life has been my family's initial disapproval of my vocation. But at no point could I ever see myself doing anything other than this. I love my job. Exhausting and stressful as it may be at times, I love this. And I think that's why I tend to fall in love with characters that have a strong sense of self above all else. Characters like Luffy, someone that no matter what it takes will, in an unflinching fashion, march onward towards his goal. It's inevitable. He will be the Pirate King. Or Goku, someone I found a lot of confidence
fuck is that
as a kid
Goku scene?
To him, nothing ever seemed insurmountable.
I need to watch the filler again, man. There's some weird ass shit in that filler.
Had on me can be felt. Naruto, however, isn't like either of these two. He's me, you, us. He's that kid that has a chip on his shoulder, something to prove, someone that doesn't know for certain if he will achieve his dreams, but god damn it, he's gonna push himself until he cannot push himself any further. It is for that reason, among so many others, I can't help but root for Naruto when he fights for his dreams, and it's why I've developed a special fondness for Kishimoto's story. It's still no Dragon Ball, Hunter x Hunter, JoJo, and certainly not a One Piece. But it doesn't have to be. It's Naruto. It's Masashi Kishimoto pouring his heart out, and it's created something that, at least to me, feels entirely different. It's something that was unbelievably special to one person in the...
Okay, we don't need to listen to that anymore. So, let me go over something real quick. Okay, so I don't know what happened in his next review. But this is one thing I've noticed already that I don't like about his narrative analysis style. So, one of the big things about Naruto is that it's a lot like a Goku thing, where you kind of have to track the development since the beginning and then kind of go to the end of the story to kind of really digest how a character changes. So, one of those scenes that happens immediately that I noticed, he's saying, now I don't know if he changes this or if he misworded it, but he's saying Naruto was like borderline possessed or influenced by Kurama, which we know is not true. That scene there is actually foreshadowed as what Haku says is, you know, when you're protecting those close to you, you're at your strongest, because the Hokage one day is going to protect the village. So that's when Naruto's going to be at his strongest. That's what the Hiruzen versus Orochimaru scene was. That's what Naruto fucking beating the shit out of Mizuki was. And that's what that enraged scene in the Land of Waves was that Haku message coming to fruition. And then there's also the whole like ninja tools theme that Naruto is critiquing. He's critiquing the, you know, the societal structure of shinobi. He's critiquing the way they're supposed to be emotionless tools. He's critiquing the way that they judge him or misjudge him. Naruto is kind of critiquing a lot of shinobi society. Like, we live in a society, and that's really exaggerated with Neji and all of that shit. So I really do hope he goes into that, because at the moment it does seem like he has this weird, he only focuses on the character interactions rather than the bigger message of the story. So I really do hope he goes more into that in the next one. So I'm gonna go piss again. I don't know if you guys want to watch the second part. We still have like 40 minutes on this stream, so we could watch the second part if you want. That I will say this. I don't think his review is that bad. I do think it was a little bit shallow, and he needs to reread chapter 1 for sure. But other than that, I will be right back. So, one sec.